Hello everybody, it's DC Cooks, getting ready to get some cooking on tonight. It's currently 2 a.m. in the morning. As you can see, I am sweated. Where I'm recording this little intro is in my little recording room. It's a little room in my garage where I do some of the recording stuff. Another channel that I've got going on. It's currently 91 degrees in here with a high of 96. I do have a fan right here on the ground, but I can't have it on when I'm recording. Anyway, what we're gonna cook tonight, I have right here on my lap. Now, it's hot in here. I just literally brought this from the refrigerator, so don't think this has been sitting in here for like, you know, an hour or anything. But anyway, I've got a 20-pound, well, 19.6 pound beef brisket I got from Costco today. It's prime, and we're gonna cook it starting, I'm gonna try to get it on the fire about 3 a.m. But so you may be wondering, why in the world are you starting at 2 o'clock in the morning? Actually I'm gonna get it on the fire at 4. You may be wondering, why am I gonna try to get this, why am I starting at 2 a.m.? I've got to trim it. And I'm not gonna record the trimming process. Essentially we just need to take off a bunch of the fat. One thing about a brisket that you'll notice here on the back has this big kind of knot of fat, and none of this stuff will render out when you cook it, so you have to make sure you trim all of that out. Man, it's heavy. So I'm gonna get this all trimmed out. I'm gonna get out of the cryovac bag, get it rinsed off good, and we got some other places on this brisket. There's a couple odds and ends like right there that need to be cut out. Try to trim this fat cap down so it's about a quarter-inch thick, somewhere in that neighborhood. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go take it in the house. I'm going to get it opened up. I'm going to get it rinsed off, and we're going to start the process. I am going to take you outside though when we start the fire, just so you can see what I do when I get ready to run my smoker. I'm using a Weber Smokey Mountain 22-inch, so it's the big one, and I'm going to load it up with a full bag of Kingsford charcoal, and see how long this takes. We're going to try to run that smoker at about 250 degrees. For maybe, hopefully less than 10 hours. I'm hoping, we'll see. We're gonna cook it all the way to, I don't know, somewhere right around 200 degrees, something like that. So we got a long road ahead of us. I don't want to sit out here with this too long. It's already starting to sweat a little bit just from being in this crazy room that I'm in. So I'm gonna get this in the house, get it opened up, get it trimmed up, and I'll bring you back outside in the dark. I have a light out there. I don't know how good it's going to be, but we'll bring you back out there and we'll see if we can't get the fire started. Seasoning on this thing, just straight Texas style, salt and pepper, kosher salt and coarse ground black pepper. Maybe put a little bit of Worcestershire on it just to help some of that stuff bind, but that's it. Nothing more than that. And we're going to get it cooking. So I'll see you in just a second. So I just want to check in with everybody and let you know that the coals are coming up now. I'm waiting for them to get done in the chimney. You saw that little bit of footage there of the trimming process, when I was done trimming. I always have this issue with trimming, and it's like the more I sit there and look at it, the more I want to trim, right? So if I don't, eventually I just have to stop, or I'll just trim it all away. So a brisket is really two main muscles. There's the flat, which is sort of the big long end of it, and then the thick end of it is the point, and there's a line of fat that runs between the flat and the point, and a lot of that won't render, at least on the sides. So you sort of got to trim that back, but you don't want to trim too much because you don't want those to separate. You want to keep those as one big mass of meat. Sometimes when you go to the grocery store, you just buy like a flat, which is just like the thin part that you might cook and slice, or maybe put in a crock pot or do whatever you do with it. But that's that long thin part, and then the thick part is the point. It's a lot more fat in there, and there's this line that kind of separates those two muscles. So you got to be careful you don't trim too much, but on either side of that, either side of the those two muscles is a lot of fat that won't render. So you got to sort of trim that out. That's why you saw in that image where it's sort of like there was that defined sort of triangle at the end, trimming out that fat. Also had to trim around a couple pieces here and there on the sides where there was some discoloration along the sides of the brisket. I didn't want to record the trimming process. First of all, I'm not that good at it. I'm not some professional meat trimmer guy. But I'm going to put in the description of this video two links to two other videos. One is by a guy named Dash from Steel Drum Smokers. He actually has a nice little video on how to trim up brisket, or at least what he does. And the other one is from a guy from Eamon and Clayman Smokers, and he has a competition trim video that he goes into great detail. It's like 20 minutes or so long, maybe even longer, and he literally goes through everything that he does to trim those briskets. So I'm going to link those in the description box down below. You can check those out if you want to. But essentially, you also saw in that little clip the amount of fat. And there's a little bit of meat, but a lot of that was that discoloration. And there's some silver skin that's on the side that's not the fat cap on a brisket. And you sort of got to trim that off. It's non-permeable, doesn't let seasoning go through, none of that kind of stuff. So you got to get all that stuff taken care of. Last thing I wanted to do before I bring you outside and we're gonna get this fire going. I might just wait until the coals are done and the smoker's put together. You saw it kind of laying out there in pieces. That's how Weber Smokey Mountain works. It's got multiple pieces you're going to take apart, get your fire going. It's got a water pan in it. It's filled up with water. Some people don't use water pan. I do. Some people fill it up with like playground sand or bricks wrapped in aluminum foil, or like clay saucer or something like that. The whole purpose of that water pan is really to act as a big heat sink. Once that water comes up to temperature, it's going to want to stay there, and it's not going to want to go either way. So it keeps the temperatures a lot more stable. So I always use a water pan just for that purpose, especially when I'm dealing with a long cook like this. This cook's probably going to take, I don't know, 12 hours maybe. I don't know, something like that. I'm gonna talk about the wood that I'm using. It's some cherry that is super seasoned. Actually, these were offcuts from some spoons, believe it or not, that I carved back a while ago, and they've just been in sort of a barrel or a bucket in my garage. They're bone dry, and I'm going to use probably this much. Probably going to be plenty, maybe another piece, and I'm going to lay these in the charcoal before I add the hot coals on. We're going to put the smoker together. All the vents are wide open on it. We're going to get it going. We want it to get it to about 250 degrees and stay there for as long as possible. I'm going to bring you back whenever we're getting ready to put that brisket on, and then I'll check back throughout the cook. Yum. So this is about 11 hours into the cook, man, and it's done. It's sitting about 200 degrees. I'm using my temperature probe there to just test to see how tender it is, and you can see it's just sliding in with no effort whatsoever. That's perfect. You can also see here that I've had to bend up my aluminum pan a little bit to make it fit in the cooker. That's a big brisket. It barely fit, as you saw in one of the earlier clips. But it's done. We're just going to let it rest, and man, it's going to be time to slice it. Ooh, I can't wait. All right, let's get this thing sliced up. This is about 2 hours of resting, maybe 2 hours and a half. It's still pretty warm. It's not hot by any stretch of the imagination. You can see that I'm handling it pretty easily. I'm not burning my hands off. So I'm about to turn this brisket around, as you will see, and that's where the grain is running. The grain's running sort of diagonal through the meat, so I want to make sure I'm slicing it in that way. Now, before you think that this slicing demonstration here is because of that brisket being tough, it's not. It's really, the knife is super dull. I think I probably could have used a piece of cardboard and it would have cut better than that knife. We're going to get that thing sharpened for sure. So we're going to keep on slicing this, and man, I'm so happy. It came out great. I was sitting there slicing it with a big old grin on my face, that is for sure. So we're going to keep on slicing this thing, and we'll see how it comes out in just a second. So the last thing we're going to do while we're slicing this brisket is just test it, see how tender it is. Now, it's called the bend test, where you bend it over one of your fingers, and if the bottoms will touch or almost touch, man, you know it's perfect. You can also see with a simple tug, we pull it apart. Man, it's done awesome. I can't wait to tear into this thing. Oh, man. Well, there you have it. 19.6 pound brisket. Total cook time, it went on the fire right about 4 a.m. and came off the fire, I want to say about 2 o'clock, maybe 2:30, somewhere in that neighborhood. Man, it's perfect. I mean, perfect. It was moist, it was tender, it was perfectly cooked, it had a good bark on it. Seasonings were perfect. You know, I'm about as picky can get when it comes to my own food. You know, I go eat somebody else's food and it's yummy and I tear it up and I'm so appreciative. But when I cook my own food, it's like a thing that I have that I'm trying to work through. I'm very critical, right? So I'm looking for, oh, is it too dry? You know, did it cut right? Did it pull right? Does it have too much smoke? Does it have not enough smoke? So I'm very, very critical. So I'm always trying to chase that perfect cook. And, you know, that's probably the, I don't know, 6th or 7th brisket that I've cooked. Certainly the biggest brisket I've ever cooked in my life. And let me tell you what, that was by far the best that I've cooked. If I can duplicate that every time, man, I'm going to be happy. It's actually a day or so later. I just wanted to sort of come at the end there and give some of my closing thoughts on the cook. Man, that Weber Smokey Mountain, it's money. If you're looking for a you know, somewhat affordable smoker, I think that 22 inch is about $400, plus a bag of charcoal and your meat, a little bit of water, and man, it holds temperatures like you wouldn't believe. I had that thing, I think I went to sleep about 5:30 in the morning. After I made sure that it was sitting right, and man, I slept for like 4 hours. Woke up at like 9:30, and I went out and checked that thing, and it was sitting at 250. I mean, right on the money. And it had been that way for a while. It was probably about noon that I started to see some temperatures drop, sort of fade away a little bit. So I had to go back in and add some more charcoal to it. What I probably should have done is just like taken a stick or something and messed up those coals a little bit, because I think I probably could have got another 2 hours of temp out of the coals that I had. But I added some more. I had like a partial bag, so it took a little bit more than a bag. You know, that one thing about that Weber Smokey Mountain is it wants to run at 225. It loves to run at 225, and it'll go forever, it seems like. When you crank it up to 250, I mean, obviously you're putting more fire into it, so you're gonna it's just gonna burn more fuel, so it takes a little bit longer. But anyway, perfect cook. Couple things. One is I need some new knives. You saw that little slicing clip, and I know I mentioned something about it and like sort of the overdub or whatever, but that knife, man, was super dull, and I was sort of like sawing through that brisket. It made it look like that brisket was super tough, but it wasn't. Trust me, you saw the bend You saw me tear it in half, no issues whatsoever. It was perfect, perfectly cooked. I gave some to my neighbor. I gave some to my right beside me, and I gave some to my neighbor across the street, and they were like, "Man, I love it. Please cook this every day." And then I told them that, "Hey, man, I can't be spending $75 on a regular basis. I'm a working man." Anyway, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see some more videos like this, man, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I would surely appreciate it. If you want to be notified when I upload more videos of this nature, you can hit the little bell icon. Obviously, all this stuff's up to you. I just hope you enjoyed the video a quarter as much as I enjoyed eating that brisket. The next night, by the way, leftover brisket. Man, we made some smoked beef brisket enchiladas. Whew! Man, we tore those up like they were candy. So good. So good. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Until the next video, please, always remember to be cool, don't be a fool, and, man, go smoke some meat. It's yummy. I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.